The gleaming ring station of the Galactic Council hung in space like a jewel. 8-year-old Gia Park pressed her small hands against the viewport as their shuttle approached, stars reflected in her wide eyes. "It's so big," she whispered. Her mother, Dr. Min Park, smiled down at her daughter. "The Council built it over 300 years ago. 27 species live and work there." Gia's father, Dr. Sung Park, checked his datapad. "Remember what we talked about, little one? Stay close during the reception. Many important people will be there." "I'll be good," Gia promised. Earth had joined the Galactic Council only 3 months ago. Humans were the newest members, and many older species still viewed them with suspicion. The Parks had been selected for this diplomatic mission because of their groundbreaking work in xenobiology. The shuttle docked with a gentle bump. Gia held her parents' hands as they walked through the arrival hall. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved around them. Tall, willowy Altarians with blue skin, squat Dravids with their armored plates, and floating Melosians who glowed faintly, in different colors. At the reception, Gia tried to stay close to her parents as they had asked, but the adults soon became busy with serious talks. A tall alien with 4 arms offered drinks. Another passed small food cubes on trays. Gia grew bored watching her parents discuss trade agreements with council officials. She wandered a few steps away, then a few more. No one seemed to notice when she slipped through an open doorway into a quiet corridor. The walls pulsed with soft light that changed colors slowly. It was like walking through a rainbow. "Hello?" she called. Her voice echoed. The corridor curved gently, leading her deeper into the station. Ahead, a door stood partially open. Blue light spilled out from inside. Gia heard a soft humming sound that seemed to call to her. She peeked through the gap and gasped. The room was circular with a high ceiling. In the center stood 7 tall crystals arranged in a circle. They floated above the floor, spinning slowly, each one glowing with inner light. The humming came from them. Gia stepped inside, drawn to their beauty. The crystals seemed to pulse brighter as she approached. No signs warned her to stay away. No barriers blocked her path. She reached out one small hand toward the nearest crystal. "They're pretty," she whispered. The moment her fingertips touched the crystal's surface, everything changed. The humming turned to a high-pitched whine. The blue light flashed brilliantly. Symbols appeared in the air all around her, ancient, writing she couldn't understand. Alarms blared throughout the station. The door behind her slammed shut, then burst open seconds later. 6 council high guards rushed in, weapons raised. They wore silver armor and helmets that hid their faces. "Step away," one shouted in the common language. Gia jumped back, frightened. "I'm sorry, I didn't—" The guard captain raised his hand. "Security breach in the precursor chamber. Human infiltrator." I'm just," Gia stammered, tears filling her eyes. She didn't understand what was happening. The crystals pulsed faster now, their light almost blinding. One of the guards shouted something about activation sequences and forbidden technology. "Neutralize the threat," the captain ordered. "Wait," Gia cried. "I want my parents." The guard, closest to her, raised his weapon. Panic filled his voice. "It's accessing the precursor network." A beam of energy shot across the room. Gia didn't even have time to scream. Where the small human child had stood, only a wisp of smoke remained. The alarm stopped. The crystals returned to their gentle glow. Hours later, in the main council chamber, Earth's ambassador Hana Kim stood trembling before the council elders. The Parks were being held in another room, their anguished cries echoing through the station. "The human child compromised galactic security," announced Elder Tauros, his massive head tilting as he spoke. "She accessed forbidden precursor technology." The guard acted according to protocol. "She was a child," Ambassador Kim shouted. "An innocent child who wandered into an unlocked room. The matter is closed according to Section 17 of admission protocols." Elder Tauros continued, unmoved. "Human emotional reactions are noted but irrelevant." Ambassador Kim stepped forward. "Earth demands justice for Gia Park." Elder Tauros looked down at her with cold eyes. "Perhaps humans are too emotional for galactic politics. Your species was admitted as a courtesy. Your technological contributions are useful, but your position remains provisional. As Ambassador Kim was escorted out, she caught sight of a message passing between council members. It read simply, "Human admission was premature. Monitor for further security risks." For the first time since joining the council, she understood how the galaxy truly saw humanity. 3 days passed since Gia Park's death. 3 days of silence from the Galactic Council. 3 days of Earth's attempts at communication being ignored. The sky over Seoul was gray with rain when the world leaders gathered. They met not in the gleaming towers of the United Nations, but deep underground in a facility few knew existed. 50 men and women filed into the circular chamber, their faces grim. Secretary General Yuna Lee stood at the center. Her usual calm demeanor had vanished, replaced by cold anger. "The council has blocked all our channels," she said. "Our ambassadors have been confined to their quarters. Council ships have moved into position near our Mars and Europa colonies. Screens around the room showed the alien vessels. Their weapons were not yet active, but the message was clear." "What are our options?" asked the President of the African Union. Defense Minister Tai Jin rose from his seat. He was an older man with a weathered face and eyes that had seen too much conflict. "We have one option," he said quietly. "Protocol Omega." The room fell silent. Many present had heard rumors of Omega, but few knew the truth. "It was never supposed to come to this," Tae-jin continued. "When we made first contact 15 years ago, we hoped for peace, but some of us planned for other possibilities." He placed his palm on a scanner in the table. The floor in the center of the room opened, and a holographic projection appeared. It showed Earth, then zoomed out to reveal the solar system. Red dots appeared throughout the projection, dozens in the asteroid belt, more hidden in the moons of Jupiter, several in Earth's oceans, and others buried in mountains and deserts. "What are we looking at?" asked the European Chancellor. "Our insurance policy," said Admiral Do-yun as he stepped forward. He was tall and lean with silver hair cropped short. "When the aliens first came, they showed us only what they wanted us to see. But we captured one of their scout ships. We learned their language, studied their technology, and we built our own." The projection changed to show massive ships, warships unlike anything in Earth's public space fleet. 217 vessels, Admiral Do-yun explained, hidden throughout our system, some built with reverse-engineered alien tech, others using methods we developed ourselves. "How did you hide this from the council?" someone asked. "They never looked closely," replied Tae-jin. "They thought us primitive. Their scans found what they expected to find, a young species taking its first steps into space. They never searched for energy signatures below certain depths or inside certain materials." The Secretary General moved closer to the projection. "And the crews for these ships?" Admiral Do-yun's expression darkened. "Veterans, the best we had. They volunteered for cryosleep knowing they might never wake. 5,000 men and women, waiting for a day we hoped would never come." "All this time," whispered a representative from South America, "we had this power?" "Power is nothing without wisdom," said Tae-jin. "We chose patience. We chose diplomacy. We chose peace." "Until they killed a child," said the Secretary General. The room fell silent again as images of Gia Park appeared on the screens. Her school, picture, her playing in a park, standing proudly beside her parents' research station. "I met her once," said Admiral Do-yun softly. "She asked me if aliens could ever be our friends. I told her I hoped so." The Secretary General turned to face the assembled leaders. "We must vote. Activating Protocol Omega means revealing ourselves. It means possible war." "The Council already considers this war," Tai-jin said. "They've established blockades. They're preparing to dictate terms." "What terms could justify a child's death?" asked the Canadian Prime Minister. One by one they voted. The result was unanimous. The Secretary General looked to Admiral Do-yun. "Activate the fleet. Wake the sleepers." For the first time in decades, Admiral Do-yun allowed himself a small smile. He pressed his hand to his ear communicator. "This is Admiral Do-yun. Authorization code Earthrise. Wake the fleet. Throughout the solar system, hidden bases hummed to life. Beneath the Pacific Ocean, the massive dreadnought Vengeance powered up systems that had waited patiently for this moment. Inside a hollowed-out mountain in the Himalayas, the carrier Defender prepared launch bays for fighters that would soon fill the skies. In the asteroid belt, mining operations suddenly transformed into military stations. In medical bays across the fleet, cryopods, warmed men and women who had gone to sleep when the first aliens arrived began to wake. A final transmission was prepared for the Galactic Council. The Secretary General reviewed the message before approving it. It was simple. You mistook our patience for weakness. As the message was sent, Admiral Do-Yun looked at the image of Gia Park one last time. We're coming, little one, he whispered. We're coming to make things right. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a hidden base that even most Earth governments didn't know existed, the massive dreadnought Vengeance began to awaken. Lights flickered on along its 2-kilometer length. Engines that had been dormant for decades hummed to life. Inside the central medical bay, 50 cryopods lined the walls. Frost melted from their clear tops as the awakening sequence began. Medical staff, themselves only recently awakened, moved quickly between the pods, checking vital signs. In the first pod, Captain Ji-Ho's eyes opened. For a moment, confusion clouded his vision. The last thing he remembered was lying down in this pod, watching as the lid closed. That had been 47 years ago. Captain? Said a voice beside him. Welcome back. Ji-Ho turned to see Dr. Yoon, the ship's chief medical officer. She looked exactly as he remembered, preserved by the same technology that had kept him alive. Status? Ji-Ho asked, his voice rough from disuse. All crew members are awakening on schedule, Dr. Yoon replied. The ship is at 87% operational capacity and rising. Ji-Ho sat up slowly. His muscles felt weak, but that would pass quickly. The cryopods had been designed to maintain muscle mass through small electrical stimulations. And Earth? The aliens? Dr. Yoon's expression darkened. Protocol Omega has been activated. They killed a child. Ji-Ho closed his eyes briefly. When they had gone into cryo-sleep, it had been a precaution. A last resort that most hoped would never be needed. Now it seemed their worst fears had come true. On the bridge of the Vengeance, newly awakened crew members took their stations. Tactical Officer Sunmi ran her hands over the controls, reconnecting with systems she had helped design almost 5 decades earlier. Weapons are online, she reported. Shield systems at full capacity. The main screen activated, showing the dark ocean water surrounding the ship. Soon, that water would part as the Vengeance rose to the surface for the first time. Communications from Fleet Command, announced the COAM's officer. All ships are awakening simultaneously. We are to proceed to orbital formation Alpha once all vessels are mobile. Captain Ji-Ho entered the bridge, now dressed in his uniform. The crew stood at attention briefly before returning to their work. How many ships responded to the wake-up call? Ji-Ho asked. 212 out of 217, sir, replied his first officer. 5 vessels in the outer system are still coming online. Ji-Ho nodded and took his command chair. Begin surface ascent. Let's show the Council what they've awakened. Similar scenes played out across Earth and throughout the solar system. In the asteroid belt, ships disguised as mining stations transformed, revealing weapon systems and engines far more advanced than anything Earth publicly possessed. Beneath the Himalayan mountains, hangar doors that hadn't opened in decades slid apart as fighter squadrons prepared for launch. At the Galactic Council monitoring outpost near Earth's moon, an alarm sounded. The monitoring officer, a tall Altarian with blue skin, checked his sensors. That's odd, he muttered. Energy spike detected on Earth's surface. His supervisor moved to look over his shoulder. Probably just their primitive fusion plants. They're always having fluctuations. No, this is different. Multiple signatures and they're moving. The supervisor frowned as the readings changed. Adjust the sensors. There must be an error. Before the officer could comply, new alarms blared. Energy signatures detected in the asteroid belt. And inside Luna's far side crater, The supervisor's 4 eyes widened. Impossible! Our surveys found no... His words were cut short as the outpost's lights suddenly went dark. Emergency systems kicked in, bathing the room in red light. We've been hit with some kind of electromagnetic pulse, the officer reported, panic in his voice. All communications are down. Get the backup systems online. We need to warn the council. But it was too late. Through the outpost viewport, they could see them now. Ships rising from Earth's oceans, emerging from mountain ranges, appearing from hidden bases on Mars and the moons of Jupiter. Hundreds of vessels where intelligence had predicted less than 20. The outpost's emergency transmitter managed to send one brief message before failing completely. Warning. Human military capacity severely underestimated. Fleet size exceeds predictions by 1,000%. Advanced technology detected. Request. Immediate. Aboard the Vengeance, now in high orbit, Captain Jiho watched as Earth's hidden fleet assembled. Ships of all sizes moved into formation, their hulls gleaming in the sunlight. Fleet assembly at 90%, reported Sunmi. All ships reporting ready for jump to Centaurus Prime. Jiho looked at the tactical display. The council had no idea what was coming for them. For Jia, he said quietly. Then louder. Prepare for jump sequence. We're going to pay the council a visit. The Galactic Council chamber was in chaos. Delegates from 27 species shouted over each other as emergency alerts flashed on the huge screens surrounding the room. The images showed what many thought impossible. Hundreds of human warships surrounding Centaurus Prime, the council's headquarters. How did they get past our early warning systems? Demanded a Dravid representative, his armored plates clicking in agitation. They shouldn't have this technology, said another. Their ships were inspected when they joined the council. High Chancellor Mevlar raised all 4 of his hands for silence. His gray skin had paled to almost white with stress. Those were clearly decoys, he said. They showed us what they wanted us to see. An aide rushed in, whispering urgently to the Chancellor. The news made Mevlar's eyes widen further. The humans are hailing us, he announced. The central screen switched to show Admiral Du-Yun standing on the bridge of the largest human vessel. His expression was calm, but his eyes were cold. This is Admiral Do-Yun of Earth, he said. We come seeking justice for Jia Park. Chancellor Mevlar stepped forward. Admiral, you violate council space with military vessels. This proves humans are too dangerous for membership. We were always dangerous, Do-Yun replied evenly. We simply chose peace until you murdered our child. The chamber erupted again. The Altarian representative Lyra rose to speak. The child's death was unfortunate but necessary. She accessed forbidden technology. A room of powerful artifacts left unlocked, countered Do-Yun. No warnings, no barriers. She was 8 years old. Your ships will stand down, ordered Mevlar, or we will be forced to defend ourselves. Do-Yun almost smiled. Look outside, Chancellor. You are already surrounded. On another screen, the Council's defense fleet appeared. Nearly 300 ships forming a protective ring around the station. They were moving into attack positions. You are outgunned, human, said Mevlar confidently. Our ships have technology you cannot match. We'll see, replied Do-Yun before cutting the transmission. In the council chamber, Lyra moved close to Mevlar. Should we negotiate? The humans seemed serious. Never, hissed Mevlar. They need to learn their place. He activated his personal communicator. Fleet Commander, initiate attack plan Delta. Target their flagship first. What Mevlar didn't say was that attack plan Delta wasn't a direct assault. It was a trap. As the Council's main fleet engaged from the front, a hidden battle group of 50 ships would emerge from behind Centaurus Prime's moon and attack the human fleet from behind. Aboard the Vengeance, Captain Jiho watched as the Council's ships moved toward them. They're taking offensive positions, reported Sunmi. Energy readings suggest weapons charging. Jiho nodded. And the ships behind the moon? Sunmi smiled slightly. Exactly where intelligence said they would be. 50 vessels powering up engines. They think they're being clever, Jiho said. Signal the defender and the protector. Spring the trap. As the Council's main fleet approached, the human ships held position. The first energy blasts from Council vessels streaked across space, only to dissipate harmlessly against shields that shouldn't have existed. On the Council station, Mevlar watched in disbelief. Impossible. Their shields can't be that advanced. Then came the real surprise. As the hidden Council battle group emerged from behind the moon, they found themselves suddenly surrounded by 20 human ships that seemed to appear from nowhere. Cloaking technology, gasped a Council technician, but that's forbidden under Section 12 of the Treaty of Polaris. We never signed that treaty, Jiho said, though only his crew could hear him. Within minutes, half the Council's ambush force found themselves disabled, their engines and weapons offline, not destroyed. The human ships used precise electromagnetic pulses that shut down systems without killing crews. In the Council chamber, panic spread as reports came in. Their trap had failed completely. Even worse, the humans were using technology that should have been impossible for them to possess. Those defense systems, a Council technician reported, they match precursor designs from the Forbidden Archives. How? Demanded Mevlar. How did they obtain this knowledge? The human fleet began a precise coordinated movement. Instead of attacking the station directly, they systematically disabled the Council defense fleet. Ship after ship went dark, floating helplessly in space. Admiral Do-Yun's face appeared again on the main screen. Chancellor Mevlar, he said calmly. Your fleet is neutralized. Your station is surrounded. Now we will talk about justice. Mevlar looked around at the terrified faces of the Council members. For the first time in his long life, he felt fear. What do you want? He asked. Those responsible for Jia Park's death, replied Do-Yun. And a new understanding between Earth and the Council. Mevlar knew then that everything had changed. The galaxy would never be the same. The neutral station, Harmony, floated at the midpoint between Earth's territory and Centaurus Prime. It had been hastily agreed upon as the location for peace talks after Earth's fleet demonstrated its power. The station's main conference room had been prepared with a large round table, symbolizing equality between all parties. Admiral Do-Yun sat straight-backed in his chair, facing Chancellor Mevlar across the table. 3 days of negotiations had led to this moment. The room was tense but quiet. The terms are acceptable, Mevlar said finally. His voice betrayed his exhaustion. Those directly responsible for the human child's death will face justice according to both our laws and yours. And the Council reforms? Pressed Do-Yun. Mevlar gestured to the document displayed on the table's surface. As written, Earth will hold a permanent position on the High Council. All member species will have equal voting rights. No more secret classifications of provisional members. Do-Yun nodded slowly. And the technology restrictions? Lifted, said Mevlar. Though I still don't understand how your people acquired precursor knowledge. For the first time in their meetings, Do-Yun allowed himself a small smile. We didn't. We developed it ourselves in parallel. What you call precursor technology, we call physics. You restricted access to knowledge the galaxy should share. Mevlar's 4 eyes blinked in surprise. Impossible. Your species is too young. Yet here we are, said Do-Yun simply. Both leaders placed their palms on the document. It glowed briefly, recording their biometric signatures. The treaty was official. As they rose, Do-Yun looked directly at Mevlar. The galaxy should understand something about humans. We prepared for war while praying for peace. Protocol Omega was never just military. It was insurance against extinction. Mevlar nodded slowly. A lesson the Council will not forget. Back on Earth, a warm spring day greeted the thousands gathered in Seoul's Memorial Park. At its center stood a black obelisk that reached 30 meters toward the sky. Carved into its surface were Jia Park's name and image, along with words, in hundreds of languages from across the galaxy. The park had been transformed into Earth's new interstellar embassy. Representatives from 30 species moved through the crowds, placing traditional offerings at the monument's base. Some brought glowing crystals, others living plants that changed colors with the daylight. Gia's parents stood near the monument, accepting condolences from aliens who, just weeks earlier, had been enemies. Dr. Min Park wiped tears from her eyes as she looked up at her daughter's face carved in stone. She would have loved knowing she helped change the galaxy, said Dr. Sung Park, his voice breaking slightly. Admiral Do Yun approached the family, bowing deeply in respect. The final council members responsible have been brought to justice, he told them quietly. It won't bring her back, but her name will be remembered for centuries. What happens now? Asked Min. Now we build something better, replied Do Yun. The new council meets next month. Earth leads the diplomatic mission. From the edge of the park came a sound of children laughing. A group of human children played alongside young aliens of various species. The first such cultural exchange program. They chased each other around trees and through flower beds, unconcerned with the differences in appearance or biology. That's what matters, said Sung, watching the children. That's what Gia would have wanted. A tall Altarian approached them, her blue skin shimmering in the sunlight. It was Lyra, formerly of the council. I have come to apologize personally, she said, bowing low. My people were wrong. I was wrong. Min looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. Gia would have forgiven you. She always saw the good in everyone. In orbit above Earth, Captain Jiho stood on the observation deck of the Vengeance. Many of his crew had chosen to return to cryosleep, ready if needed again. Others, like himself, had decided to remain awake and help guide humanity's new path among the stars. Were you surprised? Asked Sunmi, joining him at the viewport. When they surrendered so quickly? Jiho shook his head. They thought they understood us. They thought they knew our capabilities, our resolve. They were wrong. Below them, Earth turned slowly, beautiful and blue. No longer a secret keeper, but now a power openly acknowledged. The council needed to learn what we've always known, Jiho said quietly. Humanity protects its own, honors its dead, and never forgets a betrayal. Sunmi smiled slightly, but we can forgive. Yes, agreed Jiho. When justice is served, we can forgive. That's the lesson Gia taught the galaxy. As night fell over Seoul, the memorial obelisk began to glow softly, a beacon visible from orbit. A reminder to all species that sometimes the greatest changes come from the smallest lives, and that understanding, true understanding, begins with respect.